Kelsey, are you on the naughty list this year?
No, I'm nice all the time. And
Nice
so
all the
are
time.
both my kids.
It's nice how that works out. My dogs are not. So I'm Cece Ciccone,
And I'm Kelsey Bowman.
and this is Go Big or Go Decom. And what did we watch this week?
We watched The Naughty Nine, which is brand new, premiered the day before Thanksgiving
Yeah.
on the Disney Channel.
Yeah, so it's the newest DCOM 2023. We should just start and say, spoiler alert, we
We
are
are
not holding back.
we're gonna
Um,
recap the whole thing. So
the
if you
whole
would like
thing.
to watch it, go watch it. It's streaming on Disney Plus. Go for
Yeah.
it. It's a Christmas movie. It's the perfect time. That's why we wanted to cover it right away.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth saying that we are a family-friendly podcast. So, of course, that means that our language will be kept nice and clean. And it also means that we are big fans of the big guy in the North Pole,
We are
right?
true believers. No discussion on this podcast. We are
Absolutely
believers
not.
in Santa.
So, Kelsey, can you kind of lay the groundwork for us? What are we watching?
The Naughty Nine. It is a Christmas heist movie, which is not a genre we've covered before.
Ocean's
About
11 DCOM edition is
yes,
what I wrote.
very Ocean's 11. I loved it. It's about eight children and one adult who are going to the North Pole. Many of the children are on the naughty list, and they want their presents that they believe they've rightfully earned from Santa.
Yeah. They on Christmas morning they didn't have anything from Santa. There were very specific gifts that were missing. I guess we'll get into that. But I do think just a little bit of a background on it too. Um, Adults are neither on the naughty or the nice list. It just doesn't matter. Adults are on
Correct.
no list. Adults get no presents
No
from Santa,
presents.
which actually makes a lot of sense. So I just appreciated that little detail.
Mhm. So yeah, we can start right at the beginning and jump right in. Interestingly, this is the third movie to actually not be labeled a Disney Channel original movie, but a Disney original movie.
Hmm,
But it's the same idea. They've just switched it over, I guess, because eventually they're probably going to phase out the Disney Channel streaming is taking over.
sure.
The budget seemed much higher, and we'll continue
Very,
to talk
yeah.
about this.
The set, the costumes.
The effects, I thought to myself, no wonder Disney is just hemorrhaging money in the streaming department because how
Yeah.
much did they spend on this movie?
Yeah, it
So,
was kind of
yes,
nuts. So we start, it's the day, I guess the last day of school before Christmas break.
yes. We're in
And
the principal's office with our main character, Andy, who is a trickster. I'll call him a trickster. I saw some people online call him a con man. I wouldn't really describe him as
I
that.
think he was a con man. It was so funny
Oh.
going into this movie and knowing the premise. I was like, what sorts of things are they going to have kids doing that
Yeah.
made them on the naughty list? And then
This was
immediately,
fun because it was the first movie I hadn't seen that we've watched. I haven't seen every Disney Channel
okay,
original movie, but this was the first one I had not
so
seen.
he went in cold.
So I went and I watched the trailer, but I
Okay,
still hadn't seen any of it before. So yeah, we were like, why is he in the principal's office? He set the classroom on fire. He says he
fair
didn't,
enough.
but he did. That was arson.
Yes. A little side note, the principal kind of runs through some of the things that he's done in the past, and he faked yogurt rewards for his grandma. And I just thought that was
Yeah.
hilarious. He was like, to be fair, the price of yogurt has gotten out of control. It's like, yes,
and
actually it
and he's
has.
right. As someone with a
Amazing.
toddler, he is so right. And so yes, he's in the principal's office for getting in trouble. We learn though in our next scene that this was actually he purposefully got sent to the principal's office to pull off a mini heist at the beginning of the film.
And at this time, it's the biggest heist he's ever done.
It's ever
But
done. He
we will
and
see.
his
Yeah.
he and his best friend Dulce, who is black, she's also Hispanic, but she's
Mhm.
black character, so another
Yeah,
black best friend of ours.
sure.
Dulce are stealing. They're not stealing. They're taking back all of the confiscated items from the confiscation locker because and today's the only day you can do it. It's the last day of the semester, so they're being donated.
Right.
And it's fairly complicated. I mean, he stole the key. He picked the principal's pocket when he went in to give her a hug. He looked over at her desk to see what time it was being picked up, and him and Dulce go through a plan. They swap carts. he edits a video of the principal very quickly to let all the students know that they can leave early, even though
to just kind
they
of
weren't
cause
supposed to.
some chaos.
To distract teachers that they could make the switch of the cart. And then there was a fun, we think that they're caught by the principal.
Yeah.
And Dulce thinks that they've been caught. He did a little switcheroo, even Dulce didn't.
A little decoy bag from the heist that was actually filled with cookies, not the items from the confiscation closet.
And then she says, well, now how are we going to get them outside? And he said the janitor's taking them outside. He put them in the trash.
Yep.
Which was very Ocean's 11.
Absolutely.
It's just like, or I guess, yeah. In Ocean's 11, the SWAT team they go out dressed as the SWAT team, but it just felt very, the music, the way they clipped the scenes together, the way it went back and forth, it was very Ocean's 11 reminiscent. I mean, that's a big, or The Sting is the original heist movie. I don't know if you've seen The Sting.
I have not seen The Sting. And
it's really good.
So you get to this point, they have the items from the confiscation closet, which were originally theirs. You're like, okay, this is fair enough. They want their stuff back. But they do not just give things back to kids who they belong to, they sell them. And so that you kind of see this like extra level of like trickery of, naughtiness.
It's not exactly steal from the rich to give to the poor, even though that's what Andy would want us to believe. He is indeed
felt
selling
justified.
it back. Yeah, he did feel justified in it.
Yeah. So then we go home with Andy and discover that his parents think that he is just an upstanding child.
Clueless doesn't begin to cover these parents. We talk about parenting on the show. It's not, I guess, bad parenting, but they're just clueless.
Well, and I think that's the shift that we talked about in our last episode of the movie being for families and, meant to be enjoyed by parents, as well, to the shift of it just being for kids. Because I don't think any parent would watch that and be like, oh, what a wonderful family, because the parents are just very obviously clueless. He has the older sister who's trying to, ring the bell, trying to be like, look at all the bad things he's done. And I think that she's just, absolutely disconnected from reality.
The school, I guess, doesn't call people when children get sent to the principal's office. And he's like, oh, I had to help fix the Wi-Fi. And the dad's just like, makes sense. You fix our Wi-Fi here.
Exactly.
No, that's not how it works.
Realistic, though.
Like IT people. So that was a little, they were definitely clueless parents. Their whole existence in this movie is to be clueless parents. They don't, like you said, there's no sort of like a plot line for the parents at all.
Yeah.
Like we saw in Johnny Tsunami, where
they kind of serve as a foil. A little bit of a foil, just like a small obstacle to make sure that all of their boxes are checked off. But they're not characters unto themselves. They have no character arc. They're just there for.
We then switch to after dinner. He's discussing with his sister. She's reading a book called The Art of Pathological Liars.
Which is hilarious.
I thought was funny.
Classic older sibling.
Yes, exactly. She's trying to tell him he's a pathological liar. Laurel is his sister's name. Yes. She's a redhead, so her life's pretty hard. And his sister no one listens to. And so they have a conversation. Basically, they don't get along at all as siblings. It's a classic brother and sister don't get along. And then we see the parents talking about a pilot the father works with who said a reindeer hit his airplane. And then the next scene is Christmas morning. Andy wakes up. He's all excited. He has presents from his family.
Right, from his parents.
His sister gets a leotard from Santa.
And the parents kind of reveal that they didn't know that she was going to get that. So the premise is that was really from Santa. That was not the parents pretending to be Santa. Santa really gave her this gift.
Yes, and the parents are clueless. As parents tend to be in these movies, they're not believers.
Right.
We see that in Elf and other Christmas movies. The parents aren't Santa believers. And he is like, where's my Santa present? And it's because he wanted a gaming console. He did not get it. He calls over to his friend Dulce. We learned she did not get the archery set she wants. Shout out to Dulce. That's a really cool gift.
It's a cool gift. Katniss.
Yes.
Katniss coded.
Yes, we did flash to Dulce on her Christmas morning. We saw her family. She wasn't like the center of attention. She has 4 siblings. This is the first movie we saw where the main character had a sibling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Huh, that's kind of strange. I guess it just makes the plot line simpler when they're only children and
Yeah,
all the attention is on them. Yeah, so that was pretty realistic. She's one of 5 kids. And they don't make a huge deal out of it, but it is the first time that we're seeing in a DCOM a child who has 2 dads. So
yes.
we'll just make note of that. Yeah.
Really characters at all.
No,
just see
it's
them.
just a side note, a little.
We see a clip of her crazy Christmas morning where we learned she has 2 sets of twins as siblings, and she's
and they're just running around.
She's all kinds of left out here.
Yeah, which I think is realistic and is good to be included, just kind of as a plot note. It does come up later. When they need to head to the North Pole, and she's like, my parents don't really realize whether I'm there or not. So
a lot going on. And she does say later, like, everyone in my house has a person except me, which sounded really difficult, actually. We can talk about that more later.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we go to Lewis's house, who is I guess, younger student. I will say these child actors were very age appropriate.
They were, yeah. There was one of them who we'll get to, John Anthony. I was like, yeah, he looks like a 10-year-old. He looks like he's 10 years old. He's small. He's, yeah, for sure. And so Lewis is kind of there is a little bit of a stereotype here where he's, the Asian tech nerd. But they go to his house, and what did they discover?
They discover Lewis got a lovely computer from Santa.
He's on the nice list.
He's on the nice list. He has found Santa's village. There's a spot in the North Pole that you cannot see except for 11:59:59 on Christmas Eve. Then you can see there's a blip for 1 second. And he knows where Santa's village is. And this is when Andy hatches his plan. We're going to go to the North Pole. We're going to get our presents. And Lewis says, take me with you. I've been looking for this he apparently spent 3 years looking for it. He also has created an algorithm that finds every child who's posted online about not getting a gift from Santa. Thus, he's created his own naughty list.
It's pretty amazing. I will say, though, that I made some notes later that we can get to, but just the premise that they would have gifts there at all. Like this idea that Santa made them gifts and then just decided not to give them, that was weird to me.
I guess he's giving them the chance to be good right until the last second. And
that was exactly the note that I made, because spoiler alert, they do get there and the gifts are there. And yeah, just this idea that at any point they could go into the nice list. I don't know.
But you're
Jesus,
right.
Jesus figure.
I wouldn't assume that Santa just is Santa's just hanging on to him, just to, I guess, hold him over their head till the next year. He's got a vault full of gifts he didn't give out. Yeah,
so Andy decides that he needs a team if he's going to pull off this heist, because it's a pretty big one.
And this is when we cut to gathering our team. We've got
of other kids who are also on the naughty list.
Exactly. She's our getaway driver. She's on the naughty list for reckless driving.
Yep.
We
have Rose, who's an animal whisperer.
Which is a weird thing. Everyone just immediately is like, okay.
Yeah, and we need an animal whisperer. And I don't know, I thought she was hilarious because she doesn't know how to get along with people.
With humans. She's got a couple lines later that are very
I think we could spoil them because it'll take forever if we follow each character through the whole movie.
Basements are a great place to meet rats. And John Anthony's I hate that. You just said that. I was like, me too.
And they're planning okay, tell your parents that we're gonna have a sleepover. And she was like, my parents would immediately know that something's wrong.
Right, I don't have friends.
I don't have friends. And then they're like, just tell them that a dog has a hurt paw and you have to stay overnight. And she's like, oh no, is the puppy okay?
He doesn't exist. Yeah. There are some funny lines. After Andy's gathered everybody, we'll go through this, but they meet in his basement and he goes, we're gonna rob Santa's vault. I wrote down the exact line. Yeah, we're gonna rob the North Pole. And it was I'm gonna steal the Declaration.
Yeah, no, this movie was genuinely funny. It was good. Yeah.
And like we said, the production value was up there.
Yeah.
We meet Bethany as a gymnast.
Mhm.
She is a gymnast who competes against Laurel, Andy's older sister. She is mean.
As mean as I'll
but we
get out,
do-
but very good.
She's very good, and it's very Simone Biles-esque. She's also an
Mhm.
African-American woman. Well, no, she's
Yeah,
a child.
very diverse cast.
Yeah,
just
I really
overall.
enjoyed that.
But interesting that still the main figure is white.
Is white and a man.
You know, yeah, and a man, yeah.
He's
So
a child. Oh, we do pass the Bechdel test in the scene where we get Bethany because she's being mean to Laurel. We're bullying,
hey!
but we're passing the Bechdel test. And then we introduce John Anthony. It says, don't know why he's on the naughty list. He designs and sells his own clothing. He's pretty cool. He seems cooler than I was
cool.
when I was 10.
He's very cocky. I wouldn't even say self-confident. He's very cocky.
He says later, I can't help it that my natural swagger gives off self-confidence. And I was like, I want to be more like you.
So we have this team. That was everybody, right? That we get?
Yeah, that we have so far. Oh, we have little Albert.
Yeah, who had actually conned Andy earlier when he was selling the confiscation clause.
He got his stuff back for free. So he's supposed to be 8 and he's adorable and he gets everything he wants because he's adorable.
So they just figured they might be able to use that.
If I had watched this movie at 8, I would have been like, that's me. I would have been like, oh, what could I add to this heist? I'm the adorable one. That's what I would have thought at 8.
Yeah, amazing. And so we kind of get this interesting backstory, which is that all of the kids see themselves as like a victim, as being wronged by Santa.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which I thought was very interesting. They don't believe that this was just, you know, that they really think that they deserve the gifts from Santa, and so that's what they're going to do. They're going to go and they are going to serve justice and steal their gifts back. So they go into Andy's basement.
We're in Andy's basement. We are planning our coup of the North Pole. Bethany shows up and she's kind of mean to Laurel, which is what, not kind of, she's mean to Laurel. And that sets Laurel off. She gets the parents to come down to the basement, but Andy covers up by saying they're starting a recycling club. He's very quick on his feet. Like Andy should do improv. He's very quick on his feet. Amazing. The cinematography in this even was not just, it was so much better.
Yeah, the camera work.
There's a transition from a sandwich to gym mats. That was really good. There's a lot of good camera work because especially in the heistier scenes, we're going back and forth quickly. And it's
well
transitions
choreographed.
are just really good.
Yeah, they are. And so
I looked up, the budget was supposed to be 32 million.
That's so much money for a DCOM.
That's so much money. That's probably the biggest budget. And then I looked up High School Musical's
budget. That's what I was
6
wondering.
million.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
And High School Musical is legendary.
It's legendary, and yeah, it's nuts. So they reveal that the presents are in a vault in the North Pole in Santa's workshop. And so there's all these different pieces as to how they're going to get there. Santa is obviously the bad guy. They do not want to get caught by Santa, which is very antagonist. Yeah, Santa, I mean, the closest I would compare it to is like Elf, where like, well, no, not there's nothing where Santa's the bad guy. It doesn't happen. So, but they're worried about getting caught. And Andy has this line where he says, you know, like, if we get caught, we're going to be grounded for life. And I made a note and I was just like, how? Like, why would your parents, like, your parents...
Santa's going to ground you?
Yeah, like, how? Anyway, so that was just a side note that I did, you know, just this idea that, like, the biggest punishment that they could face is being grounded and not, like, I don't know, being kidnapped by elves or...
Yeah. Like... And then he's like, I'm surprised no one asked how we're going to get there. So we go to, the next scene is him going to work with his dad, and his clueless dad is like, I'm surprised you wanted to come to work with me. And he's reading off of it. Do you notice this? He's reading off of an index card. He's like, I've always wanted to see what a regional manager of a, you know, distribution center does every day.
I absolutely love it.
He finds the pilot who hit a reindeer, but no one believes him.
Yeah,
And
so
they're
he's kind of down on his luck because no one believes him. He says before he's allowed to fly again, he needs to have a psychological evaluation.
just have a psychological evaluation.
Which, like, fair
And he
enough.
agrees to fly them to the North Pole. I would not have agreed because that's kidnapping.
Yeah, and also to get some sort of vindication. You
Like,
know,
what is
and
he
he kind
gonna
of
do?
sells it like, you know, we're gonna prove that you're right and you're not crazy.
Mhm.
So
And
the
then you
pilot's name
can-
is Bruno, which
Bruno.
amazing.
Bruno, I'm gonna say it. He's kind of cute.
He's kind of cute, kind of rugged because he's down on his luck.
He is. Yeah, he's got like a 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah,
I was here for it.
but yeah, no, it's not a good look for Bruno to
Bruno's
be
a
taking
grown
8
adult.
kids
I
to
will
the North Pole all by
repeat.
himself.
Bruno is our only adult on the team. Bruno
Yeah.
is a grown adult.
So, like-
Everyone else is a very young child. But
So for everyone, once they're added to the team, a little card flashes on saying their name and what their skill is and why they're on the naughty list, and that's where we get Bruno. He's an adult, so it doesn't matter.
yeah,
he's here wanting to be vindicated.
we go home and
Uh-huh.
we learn Bethany is dropped out of the plan. She convinced her parents to buy her the phone she wanted from Santa anyway, so she's out.
Yeah, so she had no reason to go. Kind of hate Bethany. You know,
Bethany's kind of the worst. We
she's
never
the
see her
worst.
again.
Yeah, so we need a gymnast because the problem is that in the vault where the presents are kept, there's like a gap.
Mhm.
You know, that they need a gymnast who can flip over it to actually get
How
to
does
the vault.
Santa do it? Magic?
Magic, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a reindeer just jumps on a
Maybe
reindeer.
Oh yeah, probably a reindeer.
Yeah,
Just like a horsey.
that's what I was envisioning.
Yeah, okay.
Just amazing.
So he convinces Laurel to go using some, reverse psychology. He tells her Bethany's not going because she couldn't hack it. She was afraid that she couldn't do it. But I told her I don't need her because I've got my sister Laurel and she can do anything.
She's the best gymnast.
She's the
Yeah.
best gymnast.
So
Laurel
Laurel
agrees.
She does. Again, not on the naughty list. But she
Not on
agrees
the
to
list.
go.
This is where we tell all her parents we're going to sleep over at people's houses that they hadn't met. And now sleepovers, a lot of parents don't let their kids even have sleepovers nowadays.
Yeah, not anymore. Which honestly, like, I really understand. I get it. Sorry, kids.
Yeah, I at least would not let my children have sleepovers at people I've never met's houses.
Right. A
But
fun
again-
backstory from my childhood is that I got invited to my first sleepover when I was in first grade, and my parents felt like they should do, they didn't really know the family, so they called them and felt like they should get to know them. And my mom said, "Do you have any guns in the house?" And the family was like, "Yeah, we do." And my mom was like, "Oh, okay."
Did you go to the sleepover?
I did.
Oh, okay. They just wanted to know.
She just that was a question that she should ask, but she wasn't ready for step 2.
Right, she hadn't really thought it through.
Yeah, so everyone's going on sleepovers. We find out that Dulce has this amazing gift where she can sound like a parent on the phone. So that's
She
kind
did.
of how they get around.
It was funny to hear her talk like a parent, but I would not let my children sleep over at someone
Yeah, that was
else
just a
that
fundamental flaw.
But all our parents are clueless, so they are
Yeah.
just there as plot devices. So we meet up, we get on the airplane, we ride in the airplane.
Yep.
We
John
meet-
Anthony, I don't think we said it. We said he was master of disguise, but he is a clothing designer. It's John
Mhm.
Anthony Originals. So he is putting together the elf costumes for everybody. Everybody gets hats because they don't have pointy ears. So
Right. We
Got-
gotta cover up
got
our
that
ears.
one.
He designs these elf costumes. We learn these are the first things he's ever designed. All of his originals are actually copies. So
yeah.
he has
So that's why he's on the naughty list, is that he is a fake.
a fake, yes. But the elf costumes he designs are adorable. Also, he does actually sew all of the things he
He
sells.
does. Yeah.
He just
absolutely.
doesn't design it. I feel like sewing's the harder part. I feel like John Anthony should give himself more credit.
I don't know. I feel like because what I was thinking when I think it's Rose that puts on the first costume. And when she
Mhm.
comes out, it's fit really well. And I was thinking that like getting the proportions right, to get like a tight waist, but then to have the
Mhm.
flare. That's like a design thing that like I wouldn't think about.
That's true.
But he uses real antique clasps.
He is one of our side characters. So some of the side characters have some character arc and some do not.
Yeah.
Bethany obviously didn't before she left, and so John Anthony, this is the first thing he designed on his own. He learns he actually can be a designer. He talks about that later in the movie. The elf costumes are adorable. All the kids look great as
They
elves.
are. And they get to the North Pole and it's very quiet. So they figured that everybody, Christmas time, it's really busy. They must just take naps afterwards.
Albert distracts an elf so that we can get through the village. We kind of crash land into the North Pole, and Bruno waits on the plane while everyone goes in. Albert distracts an elf so that we can walk through the village. Albert pretends it's just lost out there in the woods.
Yeah.
And the elf
come
gets
across
Coco.
Santa's workshop.
I got hot chocolate this morning because this movie made me want hot chocolate.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm pretty much an all-weather iced coffee drinker. But there was on Tuesday morning, it was really, really cold. It was like 20 degrees. And I checked it while my car was warming up. It felt like 1 degree. And so I went to Dunkin' and got a hot coffee. But that's the problem with hot coffee, is that like I got to work, I started doing stuff, I kind of forgot about it, and it got cold immediately. So it's just.
Doesn't your iced coffee melt though?
It melts a lot slower than hot coffee gets cold.
Okay, yeah.
Because the coffee's already cold, they're closer in temperature. But you're right, especially in the summertime, it does melt pretty quickly. So they get to Santa's workshop. They come in. They realize they actually are not dressed like elves. Everybody. Oh well. So they walk in the workshop, and the elves were not sleeping. They were having an after Christmas party.
How long after Christmas is this? How long have they been partying?
Well, they're not back at school.
So I guess just a couple days. Seems like a 3 or 4 day elf party.
It's in that between Christmas and New Year's period.
Yeah, right.
So they're not dressed like the elves. They stand out. Everyone kind of looks at them. This elf comes up and is kind of giving him a hard time. And then he has the absolute best line ever. You think that they're going to get caught, that they're going to get in trouble. The whole heist is over. And he goes, I'm just roasting your chestnuts.
Yeah, that was
a good one.
Andy thought on his feet quick because the elf says, I don't recognize any of you. Well, we should say Hayun and Rose have left to go to the stables. Bruno's still on the plane. Louis left to go infiltrate security, and Albert's with an elf. So we've got 4 people together here.
Right. Our team is a little bit smaller. That's on camera because everyone is doing their own responsibilities.
It's a heist, so we do a lot of switching back and forth between people doing things. Yep.
The North Pole has interestingly just kind of standard security, like no magic security. It's just
it is. It's cameras, and he's looking. The one security officer is looking at them on a screen. But yeah, they say, I don't recognize any of you. And Andy, again, thinks quick on his feet. And he goes, we've been on mall duty in Cleveland. We just got back up here. Our reindeer broke his leg, or our sleigh broke, or something like that. And that's what the kid, I'm just roasting your chestnuts.
And it's a little bit scary that he's able to think of lies so easily and so realistically.
I think when Santa said use your powers for good, I think he meant Andy, like, try to get on SNL.
Yeah, become an actor.
Right. Because you're great, but you're too good at being naughty.
Yeah.
Everyone else is sort of just kind of, I don't know.
They have their things, but Andy is like at his core
naughty. He's our master. You need a mastermind. He is. He's a troublemaker. Clooney. He's our Sandra Bullock.
Mm-hmm.
He is carrying this. So we're at the party.
There's a really great elf conga line.
There's an elf conga line. Dulce joins it. They're speaking different languages, which is fun. Dulce
it's a very international celebration, which is super
Christmas
cool.
carols. They have bibinka, which is a Filipino, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, rice cake that looked delicious.
Yeah. All good stuff.
John Anthony is Filipino. So
yes, he is.
That comes up because he eats it and he says, don't tell my Lola, I believe, which is Filipino for grandmother.
Yeah.
Which is nice. A very I feel like that's something that a lot of people would say. Like I say my Aunt Vera makes like the best like rolls ever. So I feel like if I ate a roll that I thought that I was like, this is the best roll ever, I would be like, don't tell Amber.
Right. I would totally be like, don't tell my Nona.
Yes, exactly.
May she rest in peace. Absolutely, absolutely. Very realistic.
So yeah, we go through our heist. We go up a lot of stairs. They're complaining about how many stairs. We leave the party to go up the stairs. We went,
and it's kind of obvious that they're leaving. It's not very subtle because of the number of stairs. So
this is exactly how I go upstairs. For the record, they're complaining the whole way. She's like, Dulce's like, it's a billion stairs. And I'm like, that would be me climbing.
And I have little legs.
Yeah, so I'm very tiny. Dear listener, I'm very petite. Actually, Cece is as well.
Yes. Absolutely.
We get into the workshop. We see toy making devices and sewing machines and things. And on the wall is the whole naughty list just flipping through. The nice list doesn't seem to be here, though.
No, it's not. It's just the naughty list. It kind of looks like a train arrival board.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of flipping through all of the naughty kids in the world. And it's kind of interesting for Andy. He sits there and he sees it. And there's this like realization, it kind of settles in for him that this is real. To listeners, I'm sorry. My dog Rocco is in the background. He is very upset that he's being left out right now.
The reindeer that Rose and Hayun are managing in the stables at this time, because we're loading up the reindeer because they're a getaway car, are so good looking. I mean, they're obviously just CGI. They're not using real reindeers, and they look great. It makes me think of like there's reindeers in the original Santa Claus that are like animatronics, and they look like I realized that movie was made in the like early 90s. It
was very old. And I was wondering, I saw a TikTok of some people discussing the original Santa Claus earlier this week, and I was wondering, are you a fan of the Santa Claus? Does that like ranking in your top 10?
Oh yeah, I would say the only Christmas movie I don't like is A Christmas Story.
I've never seen A Christmas Story.
It's not good. Don't watch it.
Okay. I don't have to worry about that anymore.
I won't, listeners, I won't be taking feedback. I do not like A Christmas Story.
Oh, and speaking of which, we got our first feedback this week.
Oh, yes.
Shout out to the listener, or I guess the watcher on YouTube, who commented on our Cadet Kelly video and said that he or she also likes to do math sitting down, which was a minor plot point in Cadet Kelly.
I can relate. I agree. Thank you, dear listener, watcher.
That's great. All right, so we have infiltrated Santa's workshop. We see the naughty list.
We realize this is all real. Santa really did put us on the naughty list. And this is when we do see Andy start to realize this is all happening. Lewis, the security guard, comes back. Lewis didn't have a chance to turn off the cameras. And he has to hide from security. In hiding, he leaves his radio out and on.
So just a little bit of tension there.
We learn Dulce takes out a security camera, though, even though it's on with a snowball. Go Dulce.
Yeah, way to
go into a gorgeous set piece of we're in an ice tunnel, and it's beautiful.
It is, it is really interesting. That a combination of camera work, of the special effects, of everything. So they get there,
and they spent money on it, because it could have just been a hallway, and I wouldn't
obviously
get upset. We get there and we're at the spot where Laurel has to jump.
Yeah, so there's a chasm that separates them from the vault where their presents are. And it's quite big, and there are lots of pointy icicles that seem terrifying. But honestly, I don't know, icicles in my mind are just very fragile. And so like using them as like a threatening piece doesn't
I guess these are magical.
Fair enough.
These are Santa's icicles. So Laurel says, I can't do it. She sits down. She takes off her elf jacket, though, to reveal an adorable leotard. Again, beautiful costuming. She looks like a peppermint stick.
Was that her costume for States that she got from Santa?
No, that was different. Okay. That was like red, white, and blue. There's no blue on this.
So Andy is actually kind of genuinely nice to her and tries to give her a pep talk and says, you know what, you can do it. And when she says she can't, he's like, okay, there will be another way, don't worry. Like he's pretty genuinely nice. which I don't know, is interesting because you kind of see that like beginning of some character development, this idea that he's trying to be nice, but then you remember that he is getting something out of this. So is he just lying, or
we've seen him con people throughout the movie.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of question of,
we choose
is this
to believe
legit?
the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And she gets up, she does her jump, and she does it. She makes it to the other side, she flips the switch, and everyone else can run over. And we learn there's a key, or you need a code to get into the vault.
The vault is locked. And they're all birds.
A little bit. She goes, why? What did she say? What's with all the birds?
Which is legitimate. And then they realize that they have to sing the entire 12 Days of Christmas song. So they start, on the first day of Christmas, and then when they stop,
it resets.
It resets. So they have to sing the whole song, get it right the whole way. They can't stop. And I wrote in my notes, this is absolutely hilarious.
I just realized I don't know them. I knew a partridge in a pear tree, and then it went to the second one, and I was like, oh, I forgot.
Yeah, I don't know. But
when are the lords
longest.
Leaping? How many lords are leaping?
7 swans are swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4
calling birds,
3 French hens,
2 turtle doves,
and a partridge.
Okay, so you and I could get
lords.
To
11 lords a leaping.
Is it
10
lords a leaping?
8. Okay, so it's a good thing we're on the nice list. Or actually, it's a good thing we're adults, and it doesn't matter if we're on the nice or the naughty list.
It's a good thing we're not.
We would not get our presents back.
It's a good thing we're not robbing the North Pole.
Yeah, there we go.
I should have looked up that whole song, but they stand there, they sing it. It's funny because it flashes back. They're like sitting down at one point. They're like exhausted from singing the song, which is funny. We do see we flip to Hayun and Rose at the reindeer, and they have a really nice bonding moment where Rose is like, the animals don't care that I'm weird or that my hair looks bad or anything like that. They don't care that I'm not cool. And Hayun says, I think you're cool. You're like a weird cool, but it was a cute friendship. That was a cute arc for those 2 side characters,
which is very nice. So yeah, so they sing it. They end up getting into the vault. Everyone gets their presents. John Anthony gets a sewing machine,
a very fancy one.
Fancy one.
Rose is getting a boa constrictor. Santa, if you bring my children a boa constrictor, please don't. You're not allowed to, because I live in Hawaii, so Santa, that's illegal. But horrifying. Imagine like someone just gives you an animal you didn't ask for that eats other animals.
Yeah, pretty terrifying.
And in the vault, what does Laurel do?
She takes the phone that was meant for Bethany, because
Laurel's on the nice list. She got her present. Her present is not in this vault.
So she takes what was supposed to be Bethany's present.
Mm-hmm. So our getaway driver, we take all the toys that we believe are rightfully ours. No one else takes anything that isn't theirs. Lewis is assumably not getting anything.
Yeah, he's just in it because he's always kind of dreamed of seeing the North Pole, and that was kind of his deal.
Bruno's here to redeem himself.
Yeah, which he does. Fair enough.
The girls pick us up in the sleigh. There's a big chase scene, which seemed like it would have cost a lot of money to produce. They built a whole set, a whole Christmas village for this.
Yeah, the whole thing. I don't know how they would have done it. I mean, it's funny, like would they have had it like the sleigh? So they have a sleigh filled with the gifts, and it's being led by reindeer. But yeah, when you question about the set, it's like, okay, so maybe they had the sleigh that was pulled by like snowmobiles, and then they just like undid it all in CGI.
I guess like completely green snowmobiles. It was cute when she met Dancer. She was like, "You're famous." It was like meeting a celebrity. Amazing. But it's a reindeer.
Yeah,
and Bruno
this is just one of those movies that like it would have been really cool, and I bet it probably is on Disney Channel. If we were to watch it, like the behind the scenes, how they did stuff, it'd be really cool to see for this one.
Would be fun. I'd love to see that.
So they have their high-speed chase.
The plane was cleared to take off early. And I guess Bruno's pretty bad at peer pressure because he just starts taking off.
Yeah, well, they wanted him to leave because the elves feel like Bruno has, invaded their space. They don't want him to stay. It's very clear that, the North Pole is, and this happens actually when they're flying in, where it says that, they're invading airspace. And Bruno has the amazing line, "My plane is sick."
He's not good at lying.
No, he's not very good at lying.
Opposite of Andy. There's also a cute part where he asks the elf, are you sure the plane is fixed? Can we trust your mechanic? And he goes, yeah, she's my wife. Because he goes, can we trust your guy? And then the elf flips it around on him for some, she's my wife.
Amazing. Incredible.
I thought that made me laugh. I thought that was a fun.
Yeah, that was good. This is good.
True. So we have to jump into the plane because we will repeat, Bruno is leaving the 8 miners he brought to the North Pole behind because he was peer pressured by elves.
And he only has so much landing strip to take off.
Yes, so we're all jumping in one by one. Andy says, I'll jump last, but instead of jumping, he slams on his brakes, or I guess their reindeer, slams on the reindeer's brakes and takes the presents with him and stops. He gets taken away and he wants to see Santa.
And everybody else is taking off with Andy left abandoned in the North Pole, which I think was the worst case scenario, not getting grounded, but getting abandoned in the North Pole.
I had some questions here.
Okay.
One, all the children in the plane are like, should we go back for him? Blah, blah. Bruno apparently is not a part of this decision. He's just going to let the children make all the choices here. And B, what were the elves going to do? Like, what was their plan for Andy?
Well, they took him to Santa.
Right. What were they going to do after that? They were like, you saw Santa. Now let's go.
Well, I mean, Santa could take him back. They could take him back, maybe?
I don't know. It felt to me like he was going down.
Santa goes to every house in one night. It just seems
Santa didn't say they were taking him away from Santa. It felt like elf jail.
Okay, so Santa, kind of cool situation. Santa's black.
Santa is 4-time Emmy-nominated actor Danny Glover. Like, that
incredible.
And he's not in the movie for very long. It very much felt like he's clearly the most famous actor in this movie. It very much felt like he was like, I have these 3 days, and they were like, we can make it work. He's dressed very classily, a beautiful knit white sweater, a deep burgundy suit. He looks lovely.
Yeah.
And he's talking to Andy, and
kind
Andy
of interrogates him. Yeah.
Yeah. And Andy says, and he shows them everyone who was with him on the naughty list. Andy says, don't put them on the naughty list. This was completely my idea. Just put me on the naughty list. Put me on the naughty list forever. And Santa changes it to be just Laurel. While we were on the sleigh, Laurel revealed to everyone that she had taken the phone. And that's when Andy realized, I've corrupted my sister. This was wrong.
And he has a line, I thought if I wasn't caught, I didn't do anything wrong. Which actually, when you look at how children mature, is a very big maturity flipping point of this. It's that there are inherently wrong actions. It's not just if you get caught. Just there are inherently good actions, even if they're not recognized. So that's actually a really key flipping point that we're seeing, which I think is really cool. See it?
Yeah, I thought that was I thought it was nice that being punished didn't teach him that. It was seeing his sister, who was on the nice list, doing something very naughty. She took a cell phone that didn't belong to her and was never meant to be hers.
Right.
And she said, this feels good. I thought being nice felt good, but this feels good.
Right. And the sense that she deserved it, which also was kind of echoed by the other kids. Yeah.
So everyone shows up. They came back for him, and Santa tells them, you are on the naughty list, but it's because of your actions. You can get off the naughty list at any point in time. I'm not asking you to change as a person. I'm asking you to use who you are for nice things and not naughty things. It was a really great speech by Santa. I think it showed you don't I liked that he said you don't have to change who you are. And it's about your actions. And it's what we talked about a little bit earlier. He gives them the whole time to decide if they're naughty or nice. And at the end of the day, it's up to you. It's not Santa's makes the list, but he's not deciding who's naughty or nice. It's up to us every day.
Yeah, so that's great.
Free will.
I would be remiss, if I didn't make the connection to that's what the Catholic Church teaches about hell, right?
Sure. Yes, exactly.
Is this idea that you have the whole time, and you're the one that chooses it for yourself. So choose wisely.
And Bruno asks for a selfie with Santa. Santa throws up a peace sign. I thought that was
very cute.
We cut back to walking home after, I guess, supposedly the next morning the sun seems to be rising. Dulce's family did notice she was gone. Her dads were like, we were so worried about you. And I'm like, yeah, she really didn't tell them she was asleep. She really thought they just wouldn't notice if she went to bed. Poor Dulce. She's like, they missed me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, they did. Which just seemed like a very 12. I feel like at 12 I would have been like, no one will notice if I'm gone. Of course they're gonna notice.
Yeah, no one likes me.
They're supposed to be fifth graders, her and Andy, and then I guess Laurel's a little bit older. And we go to our parents, not our parents, Laurel and Andy's parents. They
say that the miracle is that the kids are getting along now.
Right. They're like, we know you weren't at Bethany's house. And Andy does tell them the truth. We got Bruno to fly us to the North Pole so that we could rob Santa Claus, and we met him. And then him and Laurel hug. And the mom is like, that is not true. And the dad's like, they're getting along. That's all that matters. Again, just clueless parents. Then we have an epilogue to the next year, the last day of Christmas break, the following year. Andy's being called to the principal's office again.
Yep. Yeah.
And in the principal's office is a Santa Claus.
Amazing. I didn't make notes, and so I forget what happens.
Oh. He said, I need the naughty nine. He's like, you're not in trouble. I need the naughty nine.
So they set it up for a sequel.
They very much set it up. And it very much seemed like a Avengers style, like I've gathered you together and now I need the naughty nine back. So we'll see if there are more naughty nines in the future. That was our recap. Anything else you wanted? There wasn't a lot of trivia because
it's brand new.
And there wasn't a lot of the director. It was his first time directing a Christmas movie. He said he was really excited. He really enjoyed the scene building the North Pole. I read an interview with him. And,
nice. I will say I'm not a big fan of seasonal movies. Just in general.
Interesting.
So Christmas movies. So
what's your favorite Christmas movie normally? Are there any that you watch yearly?
Elf. I don't have to watch Elf yearly. But if I haven't seen it for a year or two, I miss it. And it's so funny. Like,
it's so funny.
I watched Elf when fun fact for listeners, I was in the a convent for 3.5 years, and I watched it on Christmas night with the community, and there was this like 90-year-old nun, and she couldn't hear very well, so she wasn't like picking up on a lot of the jokes, but when Will Ferrell gets to the escalator, and he bridges it with his with his legs, she died laughing. And then when he's in the doctor's office and he's eating the cotton balls, I just hear like from across the room, she just went, oh no. Oh gosh. So Elf, it's just like, and I saw something on TikTok the other day that was like, at this point, every single year when I watch Elf, this is where I laugh. And it's like the moment he gets to New York and gets hit by a taxi. And like, it's just so good.
Oh, for me, what gets me is when he starts eating all the gum underneath.
Yeah, and he's disgusting. Like,
oh. Because Santa says the gum isn't free candy and he just eats all the gum and you're like, stop it. It's so gross, but it's and Will Ferrell, I could never have acted Elf, I realized as an adult. Will Ferrell's just genuine, like just innocence like in that character. Yes, wonder. That's what it is. It's like I've said, having a toddler is really hard, but I love hanging out with my son because things like when we see a garbage truck, he's so excited to see a garbage truck. Yeah. And just things that do not happen to you as an adult. And Will Ferrell has that throughout the entire time as that character.
And I think as an adult, that's what you realize was so great as a child, was that sense of wonder, was that like that question of you didn't know what was going to happen. There was this big question mark. And so, Elf does a really good job at that. I mean, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is a
I've never
classic.
seen that. Should I
What?
watch that?
Yes, it's a classic.
Okay.
It was like one of the first PG-13 movies I was like allowed to see. Just fun fact.
That's so funny.
So, yeah. But other than that, yeah, I don't really like Halloween movies. I like horror movies sometimes, but like that's
Ooh,
not specific to Halloween.
do you like Hocus Pocus though?
Never
Directed
seen
by
it.
It is directed by Kenny Ortega, the DCOM
I didn't know
master.
that.
Yes, directed by Kenny Ortega.
Oh my gosh.
DCOM King, the DCOM King. Kenny Ortega directed
He's a
6
DCOM king.
DCOMs as well as High School Musical 3, which premiered in theaters.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that's it.
directed by Kenny
So
Ortega.
his DCOMs were High School Musical 1 and 2,
Mhm.
Camp Rock 1 and 2. No?
All 3 Descendants movies.
See, I haven't seen any of those.
He did all, and then he did Cheetah Girls 2.
Only 2.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna get to do Cheetah Girls.
Yes, we are.
We'll get there eventually.
Gotta love the Cheetah Girls. So
Who was the best one, I think.
there was obviously no nostalgia, although Christmas in general is nostalgic. It was fun that they have cell phones, but when they're in the North Pole, they're using walkie-talkies. So that was, I think, a good call because it wouldn't date the movie very easily.
Yeah.
I thought directorial wise, that was a good call. They kind of synchronized their watches, which was cute. And then
I don't think they would have had
Kelly.
service in the North Pole.
Right.
It was a plot. Yeah.
That makes sense. I didn't think about that.
So, yeah, that was good. You know, that's interesting that you bring up the cell phones because I think that's one of the things that whenever I watch a movie and it's like the kids don't have cell phones, it's this sense of like youth that I don't think that kids today have. Because like I think back to when I was, I don't know, 10. And most of what I watch, you know, my parents had control over. So I was really, you know, mainly watching stuff that was for kids. And so I think it kept me young for a little bit longer than maybe kids today have because they get exposed to things much more easily and a lot younger.
I will say that changes though, but you are the oldest of 3 and I'm
that's true. That's true.
So I was allowed to watch a lot of stuff just because my older siblings were watching it and it was like, what are we gonna do?
That's fair enough.
Go?
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
I remember like crying when I was in 8th grade because I didn't know the music that other kids were listening to because in my car we only listened to like VeggieTales and like I don't know, Sesame Street CDs or whatever it was. So
VeggieTales does have some fire songs, I will say.
It's true, but it was not what the other 8th graders were listening to.
Everybody Has a Water Buffalo is a classic.
Fair enough.
If you haven't heard the Excavator song by Blippi, it's worth a listen. But yes, when we were in 8th grade, like Fergalicious was out, I think. So,
yeah.
If you hadn't heard Fergalicious, like
1-2 Step was one that
and you couldn't do I could do the dance. I could do the dance on roller skates. I can roller skate. Why aren't there movies about roller skating?
Well, now that we're adults, there are. I watched one.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say Brink, and I was gonna say Andy Brinker inline skates, which I can also do, but that is very different though. Primarily,
yeah, yes. Brink.
The balance is totally different.
It is. Yeah, no, because I have weak ankles. Fun fact about me. So I cannot inline skate, but I can roller skate.
Are you Mega Ruff from Hercules?
I'm not. All right, so Kelsey, how many DCOM wand IDs?
Yes, I'm Kelsey Bowman, and you're watching the Disney Channel. It's tough because this is the only one I'd only seen once. I'm trying to think, would I rewatch it? But I had a lot of fun watching it. I'd probably give it I'd say a 6.5. I really liked the heist aspect. That was not a plot point we'd seen before. The cinematography and everything was great. I guess I wanted more character arcs from more characters. Like we said, the parents are not doing much of anything.
No.
It's really just Andy as our main character who gets an arc, and Laurel gets a kind of negative arc, and then she redeems herself. Not all of our side characters get any sort of arc whatsoever.
Well, there were a lot of characters. That's what it came down to.
It was pretty short movie. It's like
it's under an hour and
80 minutes. Yeah, it's a pretty short movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 6.5. I'm gonna give it 6.5.
You can also give it like something like a 0.7. Doesn't have to be
Okay,
a
I'll give it a
0.5.
6.75.
6.75. All right, that's fair
Yeah.
enough. I'm gonna give it an 8. It was absolutely hilarious.
It like I did laugh out loud a
Which
few
I did not
times.
expect at
And the
all. It
budget
was
was clearly high. You were not like this is it wasn't kind of like a I love a Hallmark movie, like I've said before, but they are feels like they're all shot in the same place
yeah,
because they are. And this budget was very high. The cinematography was good. The writing was good. It when Auntie said we're gonna rob the North Pole. I mean, I was Nicolas Cage who like
yeah.
it was
Well,
good.
and that's the thing with this one is that I think when we grew up, there were a lot more DCOMs produced per year. Like I remember there was one summer, the summer that Eddie's $1,000,000 Cook-Off came out, that it was like there was one in June, there was one July, and one in August.
Yeah.
So those were much more, yeah, made for TV movies, right? There was that whole category. And that's really not what this was, which may be why they're not quite identifying it as a Disney Channel original movie, is to kind of separate it from that assumption that it's just a made for TV movie.
And that was a time when made for TV was just such a lower production value and everything than a regular movie. Whereas
Absolutely.
with Netflix and other streaming services like that making very large budget things that are direct to streaming, and then obviously it was amplified during COVID when premiere movies went straight to streaming. Or even now, some movies are streaming at the same time that they're in theaters. It was a huge deal that Barbie and Oppenheimer over the summer waited so long. People kept saying, when are they going to go on streaming? When are they going streaming?
And it's so
Barbie
funny, it's less than 6 months. Well, yeah, I mean, I know that I've been waiting for Barbie to come to Max.
It's still
because
only for pay.
They said it was going to come and it's still not there.
I saw Barbie in theaters and I've bought it. And I own the CD of the soundtrack.
Max is my most expensive streaming service. So if it's going to be on Max, I'm not paying for it.
That's fair.
But I haven't seen it. Yeah. So yeah, it's this totally different era, which I think is so interesting as we go through these to see what's changing. It's not just the technology, it's this whole cultural shift away from Friday night watching a movie with my family because we only have one television.
That's true. This was meant to be more of downloaded for your kids to watch, or maybe watching it as a whole family. But like we said, this was more geared towards kids. But even then, it was not like, oh, this is only geared towards the families with cable, the families who are at home on Saturday watching a movie as opposed to going to see movies in the theaters. Everyone has streaming. This premieres around the world now. This is for billions of kids. Well,
and what was interesting to me, and I know it probably has its own algorithm and whatnot, but I had to look for it a little bit on Disney Plus, and I went to watch it only probably 2 days after it had been on the platform. So they weren't even, heavily advertising it on the platform.
That is a good point. I had to type like NAU to get it to pop up.
I got it in the New to Disney Plus, that bar, but it was on, the third scroll. So it was not, it was not a highlighted movie. And it'll be interesting. I think that's something that we should keep track of as we're going through our DCOMs to see if they start advertising more DCOMs in the algorithm. So yeah, so this is really exciting. And so we had this 2023 movie. We are going to get another holiday classic next week. And what are we watching next week, Kelsey?
The Ultimate Christmas Present with Brenda Song, who is a big Disney Channel star.
Yeah, High School Musical, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Wendy
Brenda
Wu.
Song is not in High School Musical.
No, you're right. She was in.
But yes, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody,
and she was Wendy Wu,
Homecoming Warrior.
There we go. Okay, thank you. I don't know who I was confusing her with. So it was great. So this is Go Big or Go DCOM. You can find us pretty much anywhere where you watch podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, or listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also watch us on YouTube if you so desire, and you can follow us, get the podcast right to your email inbox at orgodcom.substack.com. We're not currently doing an email list, but maybe we should eventually. Do some fun little newsletters. All right. So we'll see you next week for the Ultimate Christmas Present. And Kelsey, who are we?
I'm Kelsey Bowman.
I'm Cece Ciccone, and this was Go Big or Go DCOM. See you next week.